All right. Hey, YouTube, I'm Lucky, and it's time for the Trials Meta Report. Okay, this is a long series of videos I've been doing for as soon as Trials of Osiris returned to Destiny 2, I started doing this. This is where I analyze the data from last weekend of Trials. Now that we've had a complete weekend, we have the first weekend of Trials in Season 15. Now we can see what the true meta is. So that way, if you're trying to go flawless, or let's say last weekend, the furthest you made it was 4 wins. If you're trying to make it to 5, 7, whatever it may be, flawless, this is going to be the data and information you need to get there. All right, these are the top 10 most popular weapons from last weekend. We have no surprises here. The Vex Mythic class, #1, the most powerful weapon by a long shot. This thing got a crazy buff this season, and so basically it just is a broken archetype. It just has a crazy TTK, super strong weapon. Now, not a lot of people have it. If you're down in the comment section below, let me know. Do you have the Vex? Do you not have the Vex? How crazy is it that it's not an easily accessible weapon, but it still is #1 by more than double almost the #2 weapon, right? More than double almost the #2 weapon, and it's not a weapon that's accessible to everyone because it requires a steep amount of RNG. And a lot of you out there watching this are going to be very salty and be like, damn it, I don't have the Vex. I'm very sad. And #2 is the Messenger, which I just recently did some gameplay with this. I have the Adept Messenger version, even with a God Roll, with Outlaw, Desperado. This thing is so beast. If you have not been using this thing, if you've been sleeping on this thing, now is the time to bust this bad boy out. So strong. Obviously a loot drop in Trials, so I can see why more people would want to take it into Trials. I didn't see a ton of Messengers. I definitely didn't lose any games this weekend in Trials to Messengers, mostly just hand cannon users if I did lose. But the Messenger is still really strong and easily a meta weapon worthy of putting some time into if you haven't. #3, the Ace of Spades. No surprises there. The strongest 140 RPM. The greatest damage boost because it has no timer on it, okay? Once you get that Momentum Mori procs, you just have ace shots that just hit like hammers to people, okay? Very strong weapon. Doesn't have Icarus though, so if you're going in the air, be a little bit careful with that. Felwinter's Lie, still in the top 4 right now, the #4 spot. Still hanging in there. The Shotgun Apes can't quite let go. And Felwinter, honestly, isn't even the strongest shotgun. I mean, it's the most powerful one-hit kill shotgun, but honestly, there's a few other shotguns I think that could easily contend with that, and they're in the top 10 here. We'll talk about those in just a minute. #5 is the Darkest Before. My baby, my favorite pulse rifle in the game. So happy to see this in the top 5. I'm going to be bringing you some more gameplay and talking more about this weapon because this weapon is so beast and definitely worth your time. Use the Darkest Before in PvP if you haven't. You'd be surprised how fast you melt people's faces off with this thing. The Thorn makes it to #6, so that's the second 140 RPM hand cannon. Ace being #1, Thorn being #2. No surprises there. Next up, we have the Chaperone, which after shotguns got nerfed, the pellet shotguns, of course, the slug shotguns are going to stand out much more. Chaperone holding it down with the #7 spot. The #8 spot goes to the Palindrome. So now we have the third 140 RPM, and this one's in the energy slot. This one would obviously pair extremely well with the Chaperone, so you're going to see those two side by side there. And that's a really strong build. Personally, I would use the Palindrome over the Thorn or the Ace of Spades, but that's my personal preference. Let me know which 140 RPM hand cannon you use when you play Trials this weekend, if you did use one. The #9 spot goes to the Fractithis, the new shotgun. It's got quick draw, opening shot, like I said. You can get that crazy God Roll. It's a stasis affinity. It doesn't really matter in PvP much, but it's definitely strong and is in that kinetic slot. And the Rizwalker as well as an Iron Banner one, which no surprise there to see that bad boy hanging in. The reason why I think the Fractithis and the Rizwalker are in the top 10 is not necessarily because they are such good shotguns. I think it's largely because that's what you would pair with the Vex Mythic class, right? You've got the Fractithis Rizwalker in the kinetic slot, then you got the Vex in the energy slot. That's a really strong build, and you see people with 6.8 million kills this weekend, and there's no surprises there why that build is getting a lot of people flawlesses. So, now that we've got that information taken care of, let's go ahead and talk about the rest of it. What a crazy weekend in terms of population. Like I've said many times before, Trials is a dead playlist if it has 100,000 players or less, and it is definitely a dry or dying playlist if it has less than 200,000 players, in my opinion. We had over 748,000 players last weekend in Trials. That is an absolutely absurd amount of people. I mean, we're talking about like top 10 weekends globally in terms of successful. And in fact, this was the most replayed weekend of Trials ever. Like the people that played more this weekend than they had ever really in the past. But it wasn't the most successful weekend ever. I know a lot of people are trying to argue this on Twitter and whatever it may be. It wasn't the most successful weekend ever because there have been a few weekends in Trials that had over 1 million players, all right? So if we're going to compare 748,000 and say that's greater than 1 million players playing, I don't think that's really a fair comparison. But I don't want to shit on trials at all. I think this is a really exciting, awesome time, and I'm happy that the numbers are this high, and I want them to stay this high. It's a really exciting and really cool thing to see. I love that Trials is doing well. Obviously, I myself being an avid Trials player, someone that's played it even during the absolute lowest of lows. I literally played Trials every weekend during Destiny 2 Year 1 with the double primary meta when it was absolutely miserable. I am so happy to see Trials doing well. Trust me. I will give fair criticisms, though. You'll see, notice from me, I'm not going to be like a lot of other people, I'll say, that are just going to just outright say everything is perfect, Trials is great, nothing Bungie can do no wrong, all right? I will give fair criticisms, and so sometimes I go against the grain a little bit, and people like to roast me for it. It's completely fine. I'm going to keep going against the grain because that's just my style. I spit it like it is. I say it like it is. I'm going to tell you what I think of Trials, and this is a really good iteration of Trials, and I think that we're heading towards a golden age of Trials, but we need to give it some time, okay? Because right now, the biggest lurking issue, the shadow of gloom hanging over Trials, is the loot, right? We don't really have any new, interesting loot to keep people excited, so will people get bored with Trials? Will we watch these numbers plummet into the 500, 400, 200, 100,000s a few months from now? We'll see. Only time will tell. I'm optimistic, though, and I'm hopeful, and I hope that the meta sticks this way right now because I like this meta. I like the shotgun not being the #1 most used weapon. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. What weapons were you using last weekend at Trials? Which weapons are you excited to see in the top 10? And best of luck to you out there going flawless next weekend at Trials. Make sure to subscribe with notifications on. Smash the like button. I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching. Later.